You don't have as much time as you think. Your first kid's about to be born. You think you're going to be able to do what you've always been doing. There's going to be some pause in your life. It's going to be different with you and your wife. Maybe sex is going to be different. Maybe time between you two is going to be different, obviously. But you honestly have no idea how much time you're not going to have anymore. Not because the kid absorbs so much, but because you don't want to be absent during those times. And because of that, you're going to stop doing things that are going to build you. You're going to realize that when you get off work, you want to go home very quickly. You want to fit in time to work out. So you're going to shift it into the morning, but you're going to be equally as tired because you're going to negate your sleep. You don't have as much time as you think, especially when you're your first kid on the way. Next, stick to a budget, stick to a plan. You believe you can pay off your debt. However, when there are opportunities that are going to pop up, you're going to go against your best wishes, against what you know you shouldn't do, invest into debt, and then go and spend 15 grand on something. You would have been out of debt 15 grand ago, a lot sooner. 5 months ago, you would have been out of debt, but you're not because you made a decision, on an emotional decision, on hope and a belief that you could get out of the debt you're in by going to more debt because you're going to build a business. It's asinine. Stick to a plan, especially if it's getting out debt. Stick to that plan full force. It's gonna hurt because you feel like you're gonna be locked behind. You're not. You would have been out of debt by now. Life would have been different. Third, you need to build your brand. That's important. Even after investing all that money, building your brand is important. When you were making videos for your gym, you knew it was important, but for whatever reason, you didn't do it. You stopped building your brand. You stopped putting content out there, and then you got in your head about it. Just be consistent. Like you are now with the YouTube videos, just add another video. Don't believe that you're going to be able to make something, it's going to go amazing overnight. It's going to take you years, especially with what you got right now, with your body that isn't 100%, but you're better than you were before. Look at your pull-ups. You spend time really going on your pull-ups, reactivating those lats. You had to go backwards in your strength, and now you're stronger than before. It's gonna take time. Do the right thing. Build your brand, because you have less time than you think when you have kids, and stick to the plan because you're gonna be debt-free, and then you can do what you want. That would be my advice to my younger self. The plan, the time, the brand. Those three things. The biggest thing I would have started 3 years ago is being consistent in paying off my debt. That would have been the biggest thing that would have changed my life right now. It would have changed my family's life. The kids still would have happened. But just sticking to that plan of not getting into debt. Be full focused in paying off our debt. Maybe moving with my parents sooner, but obviously Jenya would have been in the house and she couldn't be, it probably wouldn't have worked out. But if we just stuck to the plan, did not go into debt, that's the biggest thing. Had I just been more consistent, had I developed that behavioral habit of not putting my emotion, I guess that's what's the underlying factor here. My underlying emotions, getting passionate about, I can do this and build a business, I can be all things, I can be amazing. That need to want to do something else versus the duty that I have. The duty that I have to my family is first. And when that, I wouldn't say is done, but when the monetary is no longer a consideration, then I can have the ability and the freedom to be creative, to go and do the things I want to do, but not when you're in debt. That's the habit I wish I would have had. It would have been stronger with just being consistent, honor bound to the duty I have to my family. Because things would have been different right now. Things aren't bad, but they could have been better. The biggest misconception over these past 3 years has been a slow increase in this imposter syndrome that I've had. If I had not followed the advice I'm giving right now and it still spent the money, still didn't follow anything, it was a development of this imposter syndrome. Because I started to know more about marketing, I felt like I could do more. But when I started to do more, I knew that I didn't know enough because of that gap of what I knew that I didn't have in my skill set, and I tried to offer that to people. I felt like an imposter. I felt, who would trust me? Going into the gym space and trying to offer marketing, I wouldn't trust myself, so I felt like a fraud. I wish I'd cleared that up. And the main thing was that I still, until very recently, had this underlying belief that I was bad at fitness because I closed my gym and I was bad at that. Who'd want to listen to someone who closed their gym? It was a mistaken belief that I didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't know business. I knew and I know fitness and nutrition. I just didn't know the business principles to build a gym back in the day. That's why I had to close it down. Now I'm better, things are different, but I wish I could look back at myself and be like, hey, you're not a failure. You closed your gym, but look at how much you've learned since then. And right now, the best decision you can do is not to go into debt. You know that life. You know what you're trying to pull away from. Just pay it off. And start post your thoughts. It doesn't matter if things changed back then. Just document and let it come out. Because eventually, like this, it's not going to be the best, right? Maybe no one's going to watch this. But in the process of just creating, things will change and things will develop. That's what you want. You want that creative freedom, but it comes from being consistent and disciplined and getting over the fact that you're a failure. Because you're not. You just made mistakes like everyone does. I would tell my younger self, if I could look at him right now, just one, if there was this rift in the time space continuum and I could reach forward to Flash to him and tell him Batman, right? I'd be like, yo, he'd be like, what? Just pay your debt off. That's all you have to worry about. Just pay it off because you're not a failure. Just pay it off. You're going to feel so much better. Just focus. That's it. Man. That's the one thing I would have told myself back then. With the behavioral, yes, with all these things, invest in Tesla, invest in OpenAI, and just pay your debt off. I would poke my head through that rift and be like, pay your debt off, you have no idea. It's important. That's the one piece of advice I would give myself. Just pay it off sooner. Man, the work doesn't define you. Back then, that you didn't like what you're doing. You don't like what you're doing right now. Nothing's changed in these past 3 years. Similar experience during the holidays, a lot of work alone. That feeling you had back then, the same feeling you have now. Because you know that where you are isn't where you're supposed to be. Personally, but it is where you have to be, where God wants you to be, to pay off your debt, to not be a slave to the lender. You know that this isn't your end destination. You know that in 5 years, Smart Root is going to fulfill a role. You know that your job in 5 years is going to fulfill a role. That is to pay off your debt. And in those couple years, in those 5 years, you're going to be the best self you ever can, because no one deserves less than that. There are going to be days when you give less of that. Of course, you can't give 100% every single day, but across the board, the average of 5 years, you will be outperform most people, because that's who you are. And so in those 5 years, knowing that this isn't the place where you really want to be, but it's the place that you have to be, know the future is more. And so with that, know that you should develop yourself outside of that. Develop yourself in the fitness. Develop yourself in something creative. Develop yourself what you're doing right now. You're posting fun videos of your family. Do that back then. Don't put all your eggs in this. Perform well, as you should. Do well at your work, as you should. But don't let it get to you personally, because you do. And it sucks. And it drains you much more than you want it to. But you have to get rid of that thought. And there are times even since then where I've been invested and I've been out invested. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be invested and you can get fired that way. I'm saying you should give the effort you can, reliably, practically, consistently, with an integrous feel, and then put your focus on what's going to actually build something for you into something that you have. A nutrition business, a fitness business, a creative business, it doesn't matter, right? Something that is going to bring you joy. But that all stems from knowing that your work isn't where you're going to derive your happiness from, and that your personal life, that is what you value most. That is what you value so much. And so learn how to make that fun, learn how to make that creative. That's what I can tell you, man. 3 years is going to go by like this. The days are going to feel so long, but I want you to know that you got to focus on your money debt plan. Get that debt taken care of. You got to focus on building your brand. Be consistent what you're doing. And then you got to focus on knowing that your work isn't where you're going to find your worth at. Can't remember what I said in the beginning. I was kind of jumping around. That you're not a failure. You closed your gym down. You tried to do a sales business. Tried to do a roofing sales business. That's not you. You learned everything and you're much better now. But know that each failure is a learning lesson. You fail. Everyone fucks up. But it's what you can do after. And look at where you are now. Because you fucked up so much, you're going to pay off your debt. Crazy. And now you're going to go on to something better. And that's what you're excited for. That's why you're creating this. You should have started this earlier. You should have started this 3 years ago, on that journey 3 years ago, because maybe you could have been in a different spot now. You live and you learn. I'm glad you're doing this now. That's all I got. Hope you like it.